First of all, I want to start this video off by saying that I will not be spoiling what happens in Act 2 of Wicked, so for those of you who don't know and want to remain unaware, you're safe. That being said, I will be spoiling what happens in this movie, Wicked Part 1 and Act 1 of the show, because I will be making some comparisons, so you have been warned. If you have not seen this movie yet and you're planning on it, I recommend flying away. If you have seen it or you don't care, then you're all good. So yes, Wicked Part 1 is now out in theaters, it belongs to all of us, and there is a lot for this Wicked fan to talk about, because I'm going to be going into some details here. For example, the very beginning of the movie, the Universal logo is all old-fashioned. That was awesome. First thing you hear is the splash of the water, that of course being the bucket of water being splashed onto Elphaba. I mean, that opening shot that just slowly pans over the ground where you hear the voiceover going, it puts you right in the mood, man, and the music's swelling up. I dug that. Yeah, that is different from the show. The show just starts off bum, bum, ba, bum, bum, just goes right into the overture. The movie, it swells into it. That was awesome. And the flying monkeys crash through the window as the monkey theme starts playing. Someone on a horse leaving the castle, and we fly over Dorothy and the crew briefly. We see them for a second. And so that's all we see of Dorothy in this movie. I was like, okay, so it's set up. So we know what's coming. So yeah, the scene we saw in like the very first look where we see Dorothy and the crew talking to the wizard, I imagine that's going to be in part 2. So I was right all those months ago. That first look was for both parts. I'm such a genius. And so we come to our opening number. No One Mourns the Wicked. Which, if you know what you're listening for, when the kids are running through the tulips, you hear the trumpets in the orchestra, they go bam bam ba da bam, as in ding dong, the witch is dead. I love that Easter egg. So yeah, this opening number is a flash forward. Really, most of the story is told through flashback, as it is in the show. Is Glinda reminiscing about her time with Elphaba. And also, I don't know how I forgot to mention this in my review, but the live singing by the actors was awesome. Again, it just feels more real, more authentic. The actors are actually there singing on camera. Yeah, it's just better. And so the song covers the origin of why Elphaba is green. We learn that her supposed father is the governor of Munchkinland, but her mother had this secret affair with someone else who gave her this green elixir bottle of whatever it was. And so you imagine, yeah, that's why Elphaba is green, because her mother drank this elixir. And there's this whole extended scene of when Elphaba was a kid, this was not in the show, with her nanny Dulcibert, and the kids making fun of her and her little sister who has this really high squeaky voice. I had no problem with this scene. Moving on, we flash back to Shiz, but yeah, even the title card I love. It's in the same font as the Wizard of Oz movie. That's great. It really ties it in. Again, this being like, no, this is the actual account of what happened in Oz. And plus the fact that it actually does say part 1. Thank you, movie, for that. And so we come to the song Dear Old Shiz, which is the school song. Yeah, right from the show. It's used in the show as a transition to the flashback, complete with Glinda coming in being like, oh. It's kind of used in the same way here. It's used as Elphaba's entrance into the story, her real entrance. Great. But one difference that is made from the show is the fact that in this movie, Elphaba is not originally enrolled in Shiz. She is in the show. I thought that was an interesting change. It does make sense, actually, because kind of like Harry Potter, her parental figures wouldn't want her anywhere in public, I guess. Her father doesn't want her to go to this magic school because he thinks she's a freak. So I get it. And it's not until she shows her supernatural abilities where Madame Morble's like, yeah, alright, you're coming to the school because I'm going to tutor you privately. I'll get to that, but first I want to rewind. Nessa Rose gets the jeweled shoes, which again, they are silver in the original Wizard of Oz book, not ruby. That's a true story. But yeah, those are really important shoes. And I do like how the let it go part was done. Let it go, let her go. How the let her go part was done. Because in the show, when Elphaba's like, let her go, she just wheels Nessa Rose back to her. In the movie, it's like, well, I'm going to Saturn, I guess. I like that. It's more epic. Plus, Marissa Bodie said she had a lot of fun doing that stunt. So how can I not like that? But yeah, Elphaba has magical abilities. Mostly just levitation, making objects float, you know, just ordinary things. Which is why Madame Morble, who is not the head Shizstress in the movie, she is in the show. Miss Cuddle is the head Shizstress in the movie. But here, Madame Morble is just the Dean of Sorcery. Again, a small minor change, but it makes sense. I'm fine with it. But she's like, Miss Elphaba, I would like to tutor you privately and take no other students. Which of course will upset Miss Galinda. But we come to The Wizard and I. Now, this is the big I Want song for Elphaba. I kind of see it as the equivalent of what Over the Rainbow is for Dorothy, which there's totally an homage to that at the end of the song. When she comes to that precipice, we see bluebirds flying over a rainbow. I love that touch. That was so great. But yeah, in Elphaba's case, she wants to be with the wizard. Like, to her, being with the wizard would be like eternal sunshine for the rest of her days. Because she feels like he's the only person who could help her with her green problem. Because as you hear Galinda say in the trailer, she does care what other people think about her. She just pretends not to. So if she is degreenified, that would solve everything. Hence The Wizard and I. Now, after the song, there is a scene that I loved, where Elphaba first moves into her dorm with Galinda. This scene is not in the show. In the show, it goes right from The Wizard and I to What Is This Feeling? They're back-to-back songs. But this scene in the movie, I felt it weaved in so organically, I was like, this scene should be in the show. I just find the scene so necessary, which means it was massively written. So well done to Winnie Holzman and Dana Fox, the writers of the movie. They did a fantastic job. So going into What Is This Feeling, which is one of my favorite songs from Act 1 of the show. I love this song so much because of the ensemble harmonies. Dear Galinda, you are just too good. I love how this song was done because it is the rivalry song. Elphaba and Galinda, they start off as such bitter enemies. They're like, we're so different, we can't be friends. There's just no way. And of course the song ending like it does in the show. And now touching on the plot point that the trailers did omit, the conflict against animal culture in Oz. We see in Dr. Dillamon's history class, animals are starting to be neglected, they're losing their jobs, some can't even speak anymore. Something bad is happening in Oz. That song had a couple of changes in this movie. In the show, that song is strictly between Dr. Dillamond and Elphaba. In the movie, it's different. It's sung the same, more or less, but we see that Dr. Dillamond is meeting with these other animal professors in private, and they share the song at first. And then it's cut off, and then Elphaba comes in for the end. Although they leave out the last bit of the song, it couldn't happen here in Oz. That's not in the movie, although it is on the soundtrack, which I found kind of weird. Okay. And after that, we have the scene where Elphaba meets Fiero, which is also different from the show. In the show, the scene is out in the quad, and she bumps into him as he's being driven. She's like, you're asleep? He's like, of course, it's daytime. In the movie, he's on his blue horse, which is awesome, by the way. That's a horse of a different color right there. But he's like, oh, sorry, I didn't see you. You must have blended in with the foliage. That was funny. And as she leaves, he's like, I'm off for some more trampoline. Can we give you a ride? She's like, no thanks, get stuffed. That's good. Eventually, we come to Dancing Through Life, which is probably the song in this movie that is most different from the show musically. The musicality of it is pretty different. There are parts of it that are in a different key. I mean, Dancing Through Life is a whole sequence. It's not just like a song and that's it. There are cutscenes and bits of dialogue throughout the song in the show and the movie. In the show, it's like a 12-ish minute sequence. In the movie, it's like 20. So there's a lot to talk about here. First off, and this is another thing I forgot to mention in my review, the choreography, oh my god, it's awesome in this movie, especially in this song. They're all dancing in that tornado wheel in the library. They had like parkour guys and stunt people. It was way cool. But also, this is where the relationship starts between Bach and Nessa Rose. Now, Bach has a crush on Galinda. He's not afraid to show it, but she directs him to Nessa Rose through manipulation. So he ends up taking her to the dance at the Ozdust ballroom. And I like what Ethan Slater said about this relationship, that he likes Nessa Rose, but he doesn't love her. So it's kind of doomed from the start. Can't help but feel bad for both of them. And then, as we saw in the trailer, Galinda tricks Elphaba into wearing this ridiculous, hideous hat to the Ozdust ballroom, but Elphaba actually sees it as an act of kindness, so she's like, alright, Madame Morrible, you're going to enlist Galinda in your seminar. The favor is returned to Galinda, which makes her feel just awful. This is how Galinda and Elphaba actually become friends, because Galinda feels really bad about what she did. She's like, aw man, I wish I still hated you, but I just can't anymore, cause you're innocent. So the scene where the two of them are dancing together, oh man. I've now seen this movie 3 times, and each time I sob at this scene. I can't help it. The music, this Ozdust duet is just so beautiful. And Elphaba starts crying and Galinda takes her cheek and wipes her tears. I was like, oh man, that's good stuff right there. That's probably one of the most beautiful scenes in the movie, if not the most. And so we go into Popular, which is really when Ariana Grande gets to steal the spotlight. It's a song where Galinda tries to make Elphaba all pretty. She tries to Galindify her. And you see how their dynamic is gonna be as friends. They're still kind of opposites of each other. Their minds still work in different ways, so it's like they're imperfect for each other. And I can't help but talk about this part when they're looking in the mirror and Galinda's like, look at you, you're beautiful. You hear the motif from For Good playing there. That's a song from Act 2. I'm not going to talk about too much right here, but I'm just saying, hearing that, I was like, oh, cry. I didn't cry there, but it was great. After that, we get the scene where Dr. Dillamond is fired, which sucks because he's like, you're not being told the whole story, which is a line right from the show. Again, you feel so bad. You're like, bye. And then this new guy comes in with a beard that makes him look like he's out of a Dr. Seuss movie. But it's Oz, so I get it. And he's got this lion cub in a cage. And he's like, if things go well, this lion will never learn to speak. Oh, that's not good. And Elphaba has these poppies, which, yeah, that's a Wizard of Oz reference. I love that, because those are not in the show, actually. But I love that that change was made here. It ties it in more. She sends the poppies flying, and they put everyone to sleep. Except for Fiero, that is. Yeah, Fiero is the only one not affected by the poppies. So they get the cub, and they get out of there. They rescue him. They set him free in the forest after sharing a tender moment with each other, which leads into I'm Not That Girl, which is Elphaba's sad song, turned up half a key for the movie. Cause at this point, Fiero is still with Galinda, but Elphaba is starting to develop some feelings for this guy. Cause really, he's the only one who doesn't bully her. But even so, Galinda's like, yes, sorry, Elphie. The boy is mine. But it's not the end of the world though, there are still bigger things going on, which we see when Elphaba is summoned to the Emerald City by the Wizard of Oz himself, because Madame Morrible sent him that letter. So we come to the scene at the train station, which is actually a pretty important scene, because first of all, this is where Galinda officially changes her name in solidarity with Dr. Dillamond, who would always mispronounceify her name. So she changes it officially from Galinda to Glinda. Which, yeah, you see, at first she is kind of doing it just for the attention, because that's how she is. But beyond that, she is kind of doing that in solidarity with Dr. Dilliman, because she is starting to become more good. It's a good message behind her name change. Although this scene is different in that in the show, Madame Morrible is here as well. There's actually a little reprise of The Wizard and I right here that was omitted for the movie, but it's okay because One Short Day, which comes right after this, is extended. Boy, is it ever. I mean, it's got the extended intro, which I loved. If you only had one short day. I love that. And One Short Day was done really, really well in this movie, I thought. Because really, this is what I'm gonna call the cameo song, because this song is where all the cameos are. The whole Wizomania sequence was given a new section, this entirely new section of the song that explains the backstory of the Wizard of Oz with the magical wise ones who are played by Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel. Because of course they were gonna make appearances in this movie. They were the original Glinda and Elphaba, respectively. And they're hilarious. They have a lot of little references to their characters in their performance. Like with Kristen Chenoweth trying to get her wand thing to work, that's right out of Popular. It's hilarious, and they're trying to upstage each other. You even got Idina delivering her original Defying Gravity riff, her original battle cry. I was like, yeah! That was for those of us who said, like in the beginning, that they didn't like how Cynthia Erivo delivered it in the trailers. I did say that all those months ago. So it's almost like the movie was like, alright, here's Idina doing the original one for you. Are you happy? Yeah, I'm happy. Alright, cool. And then it comes to the big projection of the wizard reading the Grimoire, which first of all, I noticed this the second time I saw the movie, because at first I thought he was saying, oh my, like George Takei or something. But no, I picked up on this. He's actually saying Omaha, as in Omaha, Nebraska, because that's where he's from in the original Wizard of Oz book. I love that. That was a great touch. And then the woman who's like, he must be a wizard. That was Winnie Holzman, who wrote the original book for the show, as well as this movie. And then it gets to the end of the song, where they present their invitation to Gregory Maguire, the author of the original Wicked book, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West. And then they look up to Stephen Schwartz, who wrote the songs for the show and the movies. And he says, the wizard will see you now. Just, yeah, all those cameos in this one song. I thought that was brilliantly done. Plus, the choreography in that song was amazing all throughout, too. And so we meet the Wizard of Oz, Oscar Diggs, played by Jeff Goldblum. And after my third watching of the movie, I actually get why he was cast. Because they were going for a more awkward Oscar Diggs, trying to illustrate that he is just a guy. He's not this big, all-powerful wizard. He's a socially awkward dude. So yeah, Jeff Goldblum. I get it now. And he has this little diorama, this big model of Oz. And it's funny because he's like, I'm trying to decide what color I want the bricks of this road to be. I think people need direction. They need to know that all you gotta do is follow the road. It's gonna lead you right to me. But what color should the bricks of this road be? And ultimately, it's Glinda who decides on yellow. It just says road to me. I like that touch. It was funny. And so Jeff Goldblum starts singing, I am a sentimental man who always longed to be a father. Cool thing about how this song was done in the movie is that it was given this extended outro where he's behind the curtain and doing this little dance with the moon. I liked it. It was fun. It was whimsical. But Madame Morrible shows up and we get to where Elphaba reads the Grimoire because she's really the only one who can do it. This leads to the monkey transformation scene, which, dude, oh my god, when you hear the bones cracking in the monkey when the wings sprout out, I was like, oh my god, John Chu or whoever decided on that in the sound, this isn't a horror movie here. I'm just saying, that was a brutal scene to watch. We see that this monkey, poor Chistery, is in pain. This is a bad thing happening, but Morrible and the wizard, they're like, they'll make perfect spies, or scouts. They'll report back any seditious animal activity. We learned that it was Oscar Diggs and Madame Morrible. They were behind the whole neglect of animal culture in Oz. It was them, and that is ultimately why Wicked is so cool, because it makes the Wicked Witch the hero, and it makes the Wizard of Oz the villain, essentially. Well, actually, the real villain is Madame Morrible. When she turns around with the monkeys behind her, you're like, villain, because she's the one who makes the announcement. There is an enemy that must be found and captured, this Wicked Witch. So Elphaba is framed, and there you go. The Wicked Witch is misunderstood. History being written by the victors and all. This leads to this whole action scene where Elphaba and Glinda, they try to escape in the hot air balloon, which ultimately, this is the one scene that I would cut from the movie because it doesn't really move the plot forward at all. It gives Glinda a wardrobe change. It does do that, but that's pretty much it. Either way, we end up at the start of Defying Gravity. This is it, people. And ultimately, I love how Defying Gravity was done in this movie. I mean, yeah, sure, it is broken up into singing dialogue, but you know what? That makes it more cinematic, so I'm fine with it. Because Defying Gravity is supposed to be a cinematic moment. It's Elphaba Throp going, you know what? I'm through accepting limits because someone says they're so. It's so good. I'm sorry, hang on. Every time I saw it on the big screen, I broke up about it. I don't want to break up again about it. I'm cool. But that being said, I do have a couple of little things about it. Nothing too big, don't worry. Like when she's falling out the window and she sees her kid self in the reflection as she's falling, I was like, okay, that's a little too cheesy for me. In fact, I'm not really sure why that was done. But then she gets the broom that leads to the big climactic moment of the song. So if you care to find me, and it goes from there. Oh my god, I was bawling first time I saw this. Just how is that not one of the best moments moments ever. Seriously. And then she goes, and soon I'll match them in renown. And then there's this break where she's just flying and she goes, unlimited. That's not in the show. And we hear Morble's broadcast again. I love this moment. Again, it's just so cinematic. And while this broadcast is going, we see Nessa Rose. That was the scene that really did it for me, is when we see Nessa Rose and you're like, oh my god, this is her younger sister hearing this broadcast about Elphaba. Man, that hit me. And then this I didn't notice until my third time watching this just the other night. That person who dropped in the background like he was having a heart attack or something, that was her father. That was Governor Throp. Because you hear someone go, Governor. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, so that is set up for part 2. Not gonna say how, but it is. But yeah, that's great. And then Elphaba causes a power outage in the Emerald City. I was like, oh, that's cool. And we get her battle cry. And after that, there's this coda that they add to the end. Just a few more bars, but I loved it. I mean, come on, you had the John Williams timpanis that bum, 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 bum. My brother initially disagreed because he was like, I like how Broadway does it. Just that final note and then it cuts to black to intermission. To which I said, you know what? That's Broadway versus Hollywood right there. Broadway, yeah, it cuts to black and that's intermission. Movies for Hollywood, they're a lot more grandiose. So yeah, they would put in the timpanis. And my brother was like, yeah, that's a good point. And so Elphaba zooms off supersonic speed and it cuts to this text on the screen in fancy font that says to be continued, which is awesome. And that is Wicked Part 1. So in conclusion, at least for now, I feel that Wicked Part 1 is an improvement over the show. They did it complete justice. And now we come to our year-long intermission. Longest one I've ever had to wait through. But you know that when marketing starts to amp up again for Wicked Part 2, I will be here to talk about it. But for now, I love this movie and I can't wait to see it again starting tonight. Yeah, I'm seeing it again tonight. Are you really surprised? So, Wicked Part 1, what was your favorite scene from this movie? And or your favorite song? And how does it all compare to the show for you? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And did I name every song from Ariana Grande's album Eternal Sunshine in this video? Yes. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Peace!